Hey y'all, it's Laura and I have a layout for you from the Cocoa Vanilla design team, and this one is using the oldest Cocoa Vanilla collection in my stash. This is Hello Sunshine, and this is the last piece of 12 by 12 paper that I have from this collection. These two pieces here, that's it. That's all I've got. And so I have these really cool cut files that were created by Liz Longest Designs. And I'm going to use those with these scraps to create a row of chevrons or triangles, what have you. But I'm going to go ahead and fill in the smaller inside triangles first, and then I'll do the outside chevron pieces with the two papers to the right. So I'm going to use the dark blue, little bit of cardstock. This little bit of cardstock actually went really far. I managed to fill in both sets of the chevron arrow things, the inside pieces, with that tiny little piece of cardstock. So great for using up scraps. I really wanted to use up every last little bit of paper in this collection, and while I think I can get probably maybe 2 more layouts out of this collection even if I didn't have any paper, because I have quite a few fussy cut florals and lots of embellishments left, I think I could get at least 2 more out of it. But they'll have to be mixed media layouts probably, because I'm pretty low on paper. There's a pretty limited amount of things I can do in the background with no paper. So we'll have to see how that goes. But for this layout, I have this beautiful blue floral, and I thought it was perfect for these two photos of my youngest daughter, Sophia, who's wearing a navy and white striped dress. And it's just the exact same color as this paper, and I thought they were meant to be together. So I'm going to go ahead and back this entire cut file. I won't do all of it on camera, just wanted to leave in enough for you to see. I'm just gluing it to the paper and then cutting it out. Really not a difficult process, but it does take some time. So here are the finished chevrons. I wanted to use as much of the bright, bold colors as possible so it would stand out on this busy background. And I do want it to go off the edge a bit on either side so that it actually feels like it's pointing into the layout and not just at the other side of the layout. So there's a little gap there at the beginning of the arrow that makes it feel more cohesive with the photos in the center instead of pointing away from them. So I am going to layer my photos on top. And at first, I wasn't really sure how I was going to embellish this, because it's a pretty simple design, but there's already a lot going on. So you've got a busy background, you've got a lot of colors right behind the photos, and choosing embellishments here has to be done fairly particularly, fairly specifically to what you're looking for. And I wanted to make sure, my focus here is to keep the photos important, right? To make them pop off of the page. And so the majority of my embellishing is going to be really in close tight with the photos so that nothing distracts from them. Now I will say that when you're working with a paper like this in the background, at some point in your scrapping, it kind of disappears to your eye. You just don't really notice it as much anymore, and I think you just kind of adjust to it. And as I went along, I noticed that this was happening, and I had to be kind of careful because that background sort of disappeared. I had no qualms about just adding all kinds of things to this page. And normally, if I'm using this busy kind of background, I try to keep the embellishing fairly simple, so I'm not competing with it. But for some reason with this particular background, I think it's just because it was all one color, it was just navy, it just didn't stand out to me terribly much, and I went wild with it and added a whole bunch of embellishments to this layout. Now, to make sure that my title stands out, because these are flat stickers that came with the collection, I am going to add a little bit of foam behind each of the letters. This does take some time, but this little thin stripped foam from Doris makes it a lot easier and was a lot faster than having to cut up adhesive foam, large adhesive foam pieces to fit these tiny little letters. But it really does help, and it makes the title stand out quite a bit more on the page. And that is also why I'm putting the title right below my photos, because again, I want the focus to stay on my photos and not to drift off to other pretty things on the page. And another little trick I did with this title is a bouncing baseline, which is something that I learned from another YouTuber, Mercy Tierra, and she uses this quite often on her layouts, where you have your letters kind of going up and down, and so they don't have to be perfectly straight. And I just think it's kind of a fun way to make this word explore a little bit more interesting. Now, these are the fussy cut florals I was talking about. I fussy cut an entire page of these gorgeous florals, and so I'm just gonna pick out some florals and stick them down next to the photos. I didn't want to be too selective about this. I really just wanted to have a random assortment of florals, and I didn't want to pick anything that was going to stand out too much, but it will just give a little bit of extra interest to the page and detail, because detail work is the part that I really enjoy, and the background stuff is fun, but it's adding these little bitty details that I really, really enjoy in scrapbooking. Now, there are some really random icons in this collection, and one of them is the popsicles. And I thought, you know what? I have 2 of the popsicles. I bet I could tuck those in with the florals, and you would never know they were even popsicles. And it worked. So I just kind of tucked them in behind some of the florals, and they just sort of peek out as a little bit of extra color. These kind of random bits and pieces of leaves were left over with no florals from the ephemera pack, and so I decided to go ahead and tuck those in here as well, just kind of wherever I thought that they would fit, using my tonic glue pen, which is my favorite liquid adhesive. I just find that it works 100% of the time, and I make a giant mess with glue regardless, so it's a bit easier to use with this fine tip on it rather than a larger tip, but I still make a mess with this glue, so from that perspective, it's equally useful as regular glue is, but I really enjoy using it. I've gotten very comfortable with it as a tool and can very quickly use it to add little detail pieces. Now, this butterfly was actually from another collection that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it had 2 butterflies that had an inside piece and an outside piece. And so I went ahead and put those together and added it in. I want to say it's like Endless Summer, maybe. And so I decided to add those little butterflies in because I don't think there are butterflies in the Hello Sunshine collection, but I thought they were perfect for this particular layout. Then bringing in the Hello Sunshine manufacturing strip has this lovely little Hello Sunshine, obviously, label. And I decided to go ahead and add that as well and just use it as a word strip. I've actually done this a couple of times with Cocoa Vanilla because they've had some really cool names for their collections, things like happiness, which is definitely something you can use as a word strip. So think a little outside the box sometimes when you're looking at your papers and how much you can get out of them. Bringing in a little arrow here to tuck underneath of my Explore. And then I dumped out these word phrases. Now, these word phrases were actually on a piece of pattern paper, and I fussy cut the whole page out because I could. And so now I'm going to arrange them in kind of a back and forth staggered effect along the bottom and in the function of journaling. So all of these word phrases apply to my photos, and I really like the pop of color and the sort of stair-step design that this created down the bottom. I just thought it was something a little bit more interesting than just adding white paper strips with journaling. And I don't have any big story to add to these particular photos. I just loved them. They are pictures of my youngest daughter wandering through our backyard. The dog is there, there's trees, there's beautiful sunlight filtering through the leaves. They're just really pretty pictures. And she was having herself a lovely time, likely just singing to herself and having a little walk around the backyard. But it was a fun layout to scrap, and I just didn't have a huge message, so why not use the little word strips instead? Let them do the journaling for you. To finish off this layout, I am going to bring in some of these Endless Summer enamel dots, and there's hearts and stars and circles, so I'm going to use a mix of each. Put an enamel dot in the head of the butterflies, and then I'll come in with some Nuvo drops to fill in the bodies of the butterflies, as well as add a little bit more scattering around the outside of my clusters. Now, I will bring in some Heidi Swap Color Shine in just a minute to do some splattering. So scattering and splattering done. This layout is just about complete, but be sure to check out the Cocoa Vanilla blog at cocoavanilla.com.au to see more detailed photos of this layout and my fairly brief explanation of how it came together. I hope you guys like this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and until next time, bye!